Drums of War, Chapter 8, We Rage. In a mobile shipyard, Lord Justicar Brextron was more than willing to accept the demotion to captain. His responsibilities as an enforcement officer notwithstanding, this took precedence. Like all Star Sailors, he raged. He raged at the cowardly attack on the peaceful diplomatic ship. He raged at the murder of an almost holy ship. And most of all, he raged at the murder of his kin. His mother had grown up on that ship. His grandmother had grown up on that ship. While the drawn patrilineal line had his honors and venerable deeds, his instead had the most pride in the name his sisters carried. His grandmother, Trandy Lucy Druldy, had pioneered the mental health ships for Republican veterans, as a way to ease servicemen into post-service life if they couldn't stand being stationary, negotiated the R&R Justicar compliments, and started the minor best girl cult by accident. His mother also had an impressive list of honors, as she was the first Star Sailor corpsman in the Republican Navy, and while she was part of the generation of Star Sailors following the example of Linus the Rescuer, they had earned the Star Sailors a high regard within the Republic, giving them a special place, unlike that they enjoyed amongst the stars of many other nations. Any Star Sailor ship in any nation was considered Republican space for the purposes of triggering mutual defense treaties, effectively making the Star Sailor under Republican protection wherever they were, a privilege not extended by any other nation. All of this made the murder of among the Star Tides we sing particularly painful to him, and the loss of his kin aboard certainly was no balm. In just a few hours, he would be Captain Brextron again, unless other captains wished to form a flotilla or even a fleet with him. It was likely he would be, at the very least, Sir Commandant Brexton before the day was out, if not Lord Admiral. Not one on the council, not unless his fleet wished him to have a seat, but he wasn't much one for political office. He surveyed the latest war vessel his people had built from keel up, the Among the Star Tides We Rage, and again doubted his decision to volunteer for her captaincy. Was he truly competent to captain a dreadnought? Could he lead other captains and their ships into the fires of war? These questions and more tugged at his mind as he watched the Star Sailors work together with the various races of Terrans in the shipyard. He knew better than most how the adorable humans could become more than a little frightful under the right circumstances, and this was one. In the Republic, shipbuilding and modification is a highly competitive field, and firms would rise and fall in the span of mere decades, and Ford's sight was the ever pressed by high winds. In this case, the most prestigious shipbuilding firm had sent their top engineers and technicians to assist in the construction of the Among the Star Tides We Rage, and asked for not a single credit, ounce of gold, rare earth deposit, or other medium of exchange in return. They wanted only to sign their names on the keel, a purely ceremonial location of the structure. As Lord Justicar, he'd had a contingent of Terrans in his landers, and he personally knew that the humans were the most terrifying, even though the uplifts, as they were called, had certain unique physical attributes that they had adapted to shipboard fighting admirably, especially the Chipmendos. But the ingenuity and sheer stubbornness of humans made them a terror to any criminal vessel they boarded. That, and their ability to survive a ride in a boarding torpedo. This was why he'd requested the Republican Navy send some R&I shipboard troopers to fill out her infantry complement. However, unlike the We Sing, the We Rage would have a mixed formation of Star Sailor landers aboard to provide fire support for the R&I troopers. The Chief Admiral of Republican Forces herself had created a formation, plucked the top-performing troopers out of the top-performing formations, except the Lost Boys, and created the Vengeful Vanguard. "Here is the tip of your spear. Strike true," she had written. Additionally, he was reuniting with an old friend. "She's as big as one of our battleships," said a friend over the speakers. "Hi, Marv. Plenty of room for you and your squad. Did I ever thank you for saving our ship?" Marvin asked. "Many times, Sergeant. It is Sergeant now. Active rank Sergeant, permanent rank Captain, yes. A demotion for you as well. Nominally, I still keep my pay grade and clearance. My pay grade is increased due to captaining a dreadnought." Your escorts will be ships of the line rather than sloops, huh? Aye. I'm glad it's you, sir. I requested you when I saw your name on the volunteer list. You can still back out, you know. You've already proven your courage. They have slaves, Marvin said over the speakers. Aye. In the harsh conditions of the creatively named Republican Service Hazardous Environment Training Facility 14, Emmy Lee Sullivan ignored the sweat dripping from the tip of her nose as she struggled to suture the simulated wound on a simulated victim. She ignored the splatters of sweat on the inside of her faceplate. She even ignored the ache in her muscles as she forced her armor to move through low-power mode. She had a harder time ignoring Instructor Tech Harambe screaming at her, "Move it! Your patient is bleeding out, TT! Your armor is running low on power, TT! Are you trying to stitch a pretty pattern, Sullivan? How are you going to evac your patient if your armor shuts down, TT?" "If my armor shuts down, I'll get out and walk, IT." "What? I think I heard a little mouse squeak, TT. Or was that your puny little sibby voice, TT?" "If my armor shuts down, I'll get out and walk, IT," she shouted into her helmet mic, all the while she diligently tied off the suture. "Is that so, you little twig? You think you can carry a fully grown Star Sailor 5 clicks unaided? Say that again and I'll shut your armor down so that you can show me." "If my armor shuts down, we get out. If the floors fall through, we go deeper. If the patient has given up, we don't let them. I am SAR Corps. I do not stop. I do not give up. If my tools break, I'll improvise. If I break, the patient dies. Therefore, I must be unbreakable." Trainee Tech Sullivan screamed as she shouldered the simulated patient and began to exfiltrate from the simulated burning building. Simulated only in the sense that the building was on fire, could be set alight over and over and over again. "No power!" flashed across her faceplate display, and she forced her grip to loosen and exited her armor to face the sweltering heat. Then she did exactly like she said, and shouldered the simulated patient and struggled under the weight to ensure that she did not cause any further injuries to the extraction point. "Good work, Training Tech," Instructor Tech Harambe said as he dumped cooling water over his trainee. "Good work." "Thank you, IT," she panted. "We'll go over your performance for this exercise in half an hour. Get some water, get some rest, and try to be tough. You get to know how many simulated patients didn't make it." "Yes, IT." In a recently conquered system within the clans of Ultra, Captain Lena Chen had been fighting over this planet for days. It was amazing how much fighting someone could do when a bunch of insane LARP cultists pop out of nowhere and just take out one battleship with a single shot, and then proceed to engage the enemies. Their arrival had given the warp-speed battle wagon precious opportunities to pull back and rest. Both her stressed reactor and shield generators, and her officers, since the Romanova weirdos had the strategy of rotating 2 main groups to the forward and rear while the third, smaller group was held in reserve and provided support. Plus that big stupid temple ship had ammo depots in it somewhere, so she'd been able to restock twice and stay in the fight. Marcus and May both told her that their side was probably winning, and she agreed, but none of them really knew much about fighting anything other than pirates. Even though they'd made a pretty spectacular arrival and gotten the first kill of the battle before the weirdos ever showed up, the enemy had wised up and kept their shields up at all times, and didn't hold back on their weapons. Alexei told her that the Romans were super confident, but they were crazy people, so their confidence wasn't exactly reliable. But their chatter he'd picked up from the enemy was more encouraging. It turned out that the Romans had sniped the bridge of the command and control ship of the enemy with their opening shot. Nobody said that crazy people weren't smart, and she wasn't complaining about fighting alongside them. Not that she'd go drinking with that weird Pontifex guy, or whatever he was called. Captain Chen had been keeping an eye on the crew, more than the ship, since her helmsman, weapons officer, and chief engineer had kept the ship from taking any damage. She didn't really get half of what May told her from the engine room about the reactor and shield generators, but she said that if they were both running hot but safe, and Jameson hadn't caused any structural stress with his crazy flying, so she kept an eye on the crew. They were starting to show signs of forcing their eyes open, of the exhaustion that added stress of fighting causes, and the slipping of their normal judgment and performance that might get someone hurt or killed. "Heave to," she ordered. "We're going to the back lines for a nap and a snack." "You got it," Jameson said wearily. "You too," Marcus said. I'm the captain of this tub. You want me to make you, her XO rejoined half-jokingly. 2 cruisers is a good kill count for this rotation, Maria said as she pulled her hands back from the weapons command station and stretched her arms into the air. Marcus, Captain Chen began, you're not allowed to be that sexy in front of other girls. It's fine. I get my snack and my nap too. We'll split the bridge into watches in case something goes sideways. Got a Cap, came the discordant reply from her bridge crew. Why couldn't these Xenos have kept charging at the Romans? Asked Alexei. How dare the enemy not be idiots and try not to get killed? Asked Maria. Exactly. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.